Hello and welcome back to this edition of Burgers and Fries. So, today we're going to be talking about music. So, that's something that DJ and I definitely like to be talking about, right?
Oh
Yep.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
God knows how long. How long have you been trying to push this topic on me, Greg?
About a year or something.
Okay, and I'm like, all right, well, let's finally talk about this. What are we talking about, Greg?
The topic of modern music of today.
The modern music of today. And why do you want to talk about the modern music of today?
Because it just seems like today's modern music is just dull and boring.
Okay,
Okay.
a fair enough thing to say. And I'm definitely going to be asking you, like, why do you say it's dull and boring? What can you provide that shows why it's dull and boring?
The sound of the music kind of sounds dull. It's kind of like a manufacturer's.
Okay.
Okay.
DJ, anything you want to add here?
I think that's a fair assessment. I would also have to ask, like, what genre specifically of modern music? Do you just include, like, all music, or is there certain genres that you kind of think are starting to lack? Like, I'm not a fan of today's modern country. As my friends call it, blowjob country, just because it all sucks. At least most of it
Well,
does.
absolutely. So, as we're going to continue, I have to ask all of us, like, let's just set the record straight. Like, what is the kind of music that we specialize in?
Yeah.
So, I'm going to go with Greg first. Okay. Greg, what music do you like? Or who are the artists that you consider yourself a major fan of?
Well, I consider myself a fan of Michael Jackson, Prince, Luther Vandross, Earth, Wind, and Fire, and Janet Jackson, and some artists are from Japan and Korea and all that.
If you're talking about J-pop and K-pop, are you talking about current artists from that time or that region?
Most concerned about is the one from the Western world. You know, like Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion, Drake, you name it.
That's fair enough to say. All right, DJ, go right ahead. Remind the viewers, what do you specialize in?
Yeah. I listen to a little bit of everything. Cliche white girl quote right there.
Oh, I like everything.
But I will say my absolute specialty is punk rock. Doesn't matter what decade or what subgenre. If it's punk, I'll listen to it. I'm also really big into 50s rock and roll and even 80s pop, but I'd say kind of a smattering of artists that I like. I really like Sum 41, Blink 182, even some of the 50s guys. I love Elvis Presley, Buddy Holly, Chuck Berry, and 80s. I'm with Greg on Prince. I'm a really big Prince guy. I also like Culture Club, and that's just a little bit of a window into what I like.
You have a huge vinyl collection. How many of them are people from the 50s and 60s?
So I have a special section in my collection that is just 50s rock, and that section that's probably about a sixth of my record collection there, so about 100.
Oh,
And a lot of them, some of those are multiple copies because I like to have original pressings from the 50s uh, in top shape. And then 60s stuff kind of smattered into other subgenres in my collection, but I also have a fair amount of stuff from the 60s.
now, many people who have listened to me know how much of a metalhead that I am. I definitely specialize in that world. So I'll always talk highly about Metallica, even if what they're doing nowadays with the recent release of 72 Seasons is not up to par on what their previous albums are. I definitely like a lot of heavy metal subgenres, like progressive heavy metal, symphonic heavy metal, thrash. Like just how DJ said, if it's punk rock, if it's a subgenre, I'm listening to it. I'm the same way with heavy metal. If as long as to me it has a good melody, it has a great beat, it has a great hook or a good riff. Even if it's screaming, I love it. And I know it's not for everyone, and that's fine by me. So now to continue on, I have to ask you, Greg, since your main topic you want to be talking about is modern music. So I have to ask you, how far back in years are we talking?
I think from the 90s, it was great. Around the mid 2000s, I think, when I started to notice that music was starting to degrading a bit. And then I think once we reached 2010s, it was starting to get worse. And I think from 2020 to 24, I think that's where music started to become dull and boring.
Who do you consider to be the biggest pop artist today?
Honestly, Bruno Mars.
Bruno Mars, you consider to be the biggest pop artist. Okay. When I say biggest, I mean like the biggest draw. Like who's doing the big stadium tours and selling out every night?
Who do you hear about a lot?
Exactly. Who did we actually do a podcast episode one time where myself and DJ actually had to defend her while you and Pat were talking a lot of shit about her?
I know, Taylor Swift.
Do you know what year Taylor Swift started to come out?
2009.
About 2006.
Yep.
Okay. That's when she had her first releases. And now it's 2024. So she's been around for basically 2 decades at this point. People from that mold, that era, like Rihanna, Demi Lovato, they've been around for over 20 years. So do you consider that to be modern?
I don't know what to say.
I would say, as far as like, I guess with an act like Taylor Swift and Rihanna, I would say they're as sacrilegious as this could say, they're almost kind of on the upper cusp of what you could call a legacy artist, where they've been around for a while. But I mean, Taylor is still churning out hits. Rihanna doesn't really do a lot of stuff anymore, but I mean, her Super Bowl performance was huge. They're still kind of killing it
Was
for a
that
lot
from
of people.
this year?
The Rihanna, that was from last year. I mean, these artists are still very current, despite the fact that they've been going on for a while.
You can consider Metallica to be current because they're still churning out albums and they're still selling out stadium tours everywhere they go, even though they've been around 40 years.
Yeah, very
But
much so.
other people are going to label Metallica as dad rock because of how long they've been around.
I mean, Metallica, I mean, outside of the Stranger Things, Master of Puppets from a couple years ago, they're not really having top 40 hits, but they are still selling a lot of records, like you mentioned.
Yeah, the Black Album is still selling. And yeah, for those who don't know about the Stranger Things thing, Metallica's Master of Puppets was played on a Stranger Things episode, and that caused a lot of post-millennials, like younger people than me, to look up that song and then basically discover that song, even though that's been around since 1986. And Metallica actually embraced it because it brought a renewed life in it. So it made that song even more popular than Enter Sandman is nowadays.
Yeah, it charted on the charts as like a pop hit, like on the general charts, which is crazy to think about.
And that's the other thing that's going on is in today's movies, that's also happening.
Another song from Deadpool and Wolverine I've also been listening to is Like a Prayer by Madonna.
Oh, we're going to mention a little bit about that in a bit later. All right.
Oh, yeah.
So I can agree with you there. But okay, so I have to ask you, Greg, when you're really wanting to talk about how shitty modern music is nowadays, who are people that you're talking about?
Does Cardi B and Megan the horse stick count?
What is her actual name?
The Stallion.
Megan the Stallion?
Yeah.
Okay, not Megan the Stallion. Okay, why am I'm looking it up and it instantly wants to give me Meghan Markle. Like, no, I'm not looking up her. Okay, Megan the Stallion. Okay, years active. Okay, she has been around since 2016.
Yes.
Absolutely. You could definitely say modern artist. Anyone else, bud? Anyone else that we're going to be talking about here? I mean, if you're going to bring up Taylor Swift, that's fine. We just have to acknowledge that she's been around a long time. But you can bring up whoever you want.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift, as well as is Kesha still relevant?
Kesha, no, she's definitely not still relevant. At least not in my book. But she's been around since 2005.
She's probably more known. I mean, her hits from back then, I still hear like in the grocery store.
She's grocery store pop now. She's not.
Yeah.
She's not dance club pop.
But I feel like a lot of people in a more modern context probably know her for like the Dr. Luke trial.
Okay.
She hasn't had a hit since 2017, I don't think.
And I think in 2019, during the Grammys, people were upset that she didn't win a single Grammy Award that year.
It's a bullshit award. Remember, these are the same Grammys that gave a Grammy to Jethro Tull that shouldn't have
Yeah.
even been in the same category as Metallica.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah. So what if she didn't get an award? Doesn't mean she didn't deserve it.
And especially after she did that reality TV show where she was caught drinking her pee and all that.
Oh,
Okay.
I've never heard of that, but I will say
Yeah.
to that, I mean, have you heard of Gigi Allen?
Who?
Punk rock guy from the late 80s and early 90s who was infamous for like shitting on stage and throwing it at people.
He died in 1993.
Yeah.
I think I
But
might have heard about something like that.
yeah, he was probably the craziest, but yeah, I mean there's been people that have done shocking stuff like that. I didn't know about Kesha drinking her own pee, but I mean that's kind of tame.
I mean, if it's part of the act, whatever. But also, we're talking about R. Kelly, who did it to his wives or his girlfriends.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Whew.
boy.
So people, and that's going to be another video where we're going to be talking about like what constitutes something so repulsive that we just cannot listen to a guy anymore. And that's another podcast topic.
Yeah.
And well,
Okay.
if I can say
Go
about today's modern music, well, yeah, here's a list of someone like rap is being overrated. The talented artists are just being replaced by those that are not even that talented. The talentless ones are just using auto tune to cover the voice because they can't sing. And
but they've been doing that for decades.
Yeah. I'll just say this real quick. I know Cher actually started using auto-tune for Believe, and that was a pretty big song.
That was like her resurgence song.
Yeah.
the today's music is also being too hyper sexualized or something.
Okay.
Okay.
So give me some examples, buddy.
I mean, yes, I can understand that. Like during the 70s, 80s, and 90s, they had songs like that, but they just seem a little more tamer than the ones of today.
Okay.
Okay. Keep going, Greg. Keep going. We're gonna let you speak here.
Well, I'll put it this way: if I were to be with a lady or something, I'd rather, I don't know, play sexual healing or super freak to get the mood started, rather than WAP and all that.
Fair enough, but I don't think I want to listen to Super Freak either.
I wouldn't
But,
mind.
I've never really liked listening to music when I had sex, but that's me.
I'm going to share you one song. This song is from the 30s, and it's by a blues artist called Lucille Bogan. It's called Till the Cows Come Home. I got the lyrics pulled up on Google. The opening lyrics are, I got a man I love, I got a man I like. Every time I fuck that man, I give him the doggone clap. I mean, that's basically a WAP lyric right there.
Whoa.
Yeah. Or later in the song, she says, honey, I could piss all night. You can fuck my cock or suck my cock, baby, until the cows come home. This is a 30s blues song.
This is the 30s. So I can
Yep.
imagine that could have been a very popular song in black music clubs in the South.
I also, it's funny I bring up Little Richard. You know the original lyrics to Tutti Frutti are pretty dirty too. It was
Can I?
it was originally Tutti Frutti, oh Rudy, if it don't fit, don't force it. You can grease it, make it easy. I mean,
Uh,
that's basically a WAP lyric.
Yeah.
That was the version he did at a lot of the gay nightclubs back in the 50s before he blew up.
We also should go back a little bit, back to the 18th century. What famous composer made a song with which lyrics such as "lick my ass nice and clean"? You know what famous composer we're talking about, Greg?
No,
Mozart.
seriously.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
History buff, when he did his review on Amadeus, actually played a clip from it, and it was a children's choir singing it in German, obviously, but it's, lick my ass nice and clean. Yeah, he was writing dirty lyrics that would be considered WAP lyrics today. So, and I'm glad you brought up Madonna because of Deadpool 3 with Like a Prayer causing a lot of people to look up that song. In 1989, do you know how controversial that song was?
How controversial.
Or maybe not the song, but the music video. Like, she had a huge backlash from that music video. Because in that music video, besides interracial relationship, it's Madonna with stigmata, it's a Black Jesus, it's a burning cross, it's Madonna having sexy time with Black Jesus.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yes. I mean, yeah, we can criticize Lil Nas X for, what people said was satanic in his stuff, but Madonna was doing that stuff 30 years ago.
Yeah. The same.
Then there was the
outrage.
Yeah, then there was the video for Justified My Love, which featured a graphic bisexual orgy. She released a book titled Sex. It was a coffee table book called Sex. It had an album titled Erotica.
Are we talking about Madonna here?
Yes.
Yep.
She's from that same era as Michael Jackson and Prince. What we criticize WAP over, that's what she was doing 30 years ago.
All right.
And even Prince, like, there's a lot of songs that Prince had that are very straight up just dirty. I mean, Prince has songs like Do Me Baby, Delirious, which I think it's that song. He one of the lyrics is I want to fuck the taste out of your mouth. Little Red Corvette. Funny story about that. I was listening to Little Red Corvette with my mom when I was a junior in high school in the car, and he sings Pocket Full of Horses, and she looks at me, she's like, Pocket Full of Horses? Really? And it was just funny. And then on the Controversy album, he has a song called Jack You Off, where he sings about jacking his girl off pretty explicitly. Erotic City, which was the B-side to Let's Go Crazy. That one's like We Can Fuck Until the Dawn. And then he literally has an album called Come.
And we also remember his halftime show performance when he's in shadow with his guitar.
I know what you're talking about.
Yes, we remember that part too. So, speaking of Prince, I have to bring this up too. Like, this is 1985. You remember when Al Gore's wife founded the Parents Music Resource Center?
Yep.
I don't recall.
Okay, so this is in the 1980s. This is Al Gore's wife, Tipper Gore, and a bunch of other Washington wives or whatever that tried to form this committee group who had a goal of increasing parental control over, the young people having access to their music because of, violent, drug-related, or sexual themes. That's what caused that whole parental advisory sticker to get on albums. You know what I'm talking about?
I think so.
There was a list that they called the Filthy 15.
Mm-hmm.
You know what number 1 on that list is?
Tell me.
Prince, Darling Nikki, because of, quote, sex and masturbation.
Yep.
Judas Priest, Eat Me Alive is on there. Motley Crue's Bastard is on there. AC/DC, Let Me Put My Love Into You. Twisted Sisters, We're Not Gonna Take It's there. Madonna, Dress You Up. The band Wasp, Animal, Fuck Like a Beast. Yep. Def Leppard's High and Dry. Cyndi Lauper, She Bop was number 15 on that list.
I have that in my notes.
Yeah. This whole argument, Greg, that you're going to be talking about, oh man, the music nowadays is just so sexualized and it's way too overboard. We've literally given you so many examples of stuff from 30 to 40 years ago, even longer than that was just as bad. So are there any other examples of modern music or modern artists that you want to bring up? And it's okay if you want to keep listing these examples. Look, it's all right.
As far as people sounding the same, I don't think Taylor Swift sounds like The Weeknd, and I don't really think that The Weeknd sounds like Olivia Rodrigo.
Taylor Swift does not sound like Demi Lovato. Demi Lovato does not sound like Rihanna.
Yeah. There's still some variety out there.
So I guess one thing I can bring up when it comes to any issue with modern music, it's mostly to do with the sound itself. It's that some can argue that it's really no longer about the hook, something being catchy, or the big riff. It's just mostly about the vibe or the feel of the song.
Mm-hmm.
It's, mainly the mood and the aesthetic of the song. Whatever fits the song to be played when someone posts it on Instagram. Here's a picture of me in Hawaii. Now here's a song in the background for that picture.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a fair criticism. Even some of the more modern stuff I like.
Some are going to say that, yeah, there's a lot of modern pop artists Instead of something shiny, catchy, upbeat, instead they're giving off these hazy lo-fi vibes, like whatever the mood is. Like, oh, I need a song for when I wake up late hungover and the sun shines through the curtains.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
or I need a song when I'm sitting alone at the dinner table. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Like,
And
or, Taylor Swift is even a big example. She's no longer doing songs like Shake It Off and Bad Blood or whatever. It's stuff like Cardigan. There's a part in that song that really only made that song popular because everybody kept sharing it as background music on a TikTok video. This is a perfect vibe for a video about my son's open heart surgery. This really fits the vibe over my daughter's gender reveal party. Like,
Oh,
Yeah.
brother.
that's what a lot of songs are doing nowadays. It's like they're getting big because they've been featured on a TikTok video, and it's not even the catchiest part of the song. It's just whatever needs to be felt.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
I mean, we can both agree here that, listening to music is no longer a main activity as life goes on. I used to listen to CDs a lot. Now I don't necessarily do it as much. But would you agree here that it feels like nowadays that it's a lot of people, especially in the social media era, they really only care about the 5 to 10 seconds of a clip of a song to fit their vibe, and then they ignore the rest of the song. It's like the part where Homer Simpson's heckled Bachman Turner Overdrive. He was like, no, start playing Taking Care of Business right now. And no, get to the working overtime part.
Oh,
I think that is fair. But I kind of wonder too, is that more of a music criticism or is that just more of like an audience kind of criticism?
In some ways, the audience reaction and the audience reception kind of dictates what gets big, what becomes popular. So if catchy riffs are no longer popular, if big choruses are no longer popular, if it's just whatever fits their vibe makes it popular, and if it's causing a decline in the appeal to music, then yeah, it's definitely a little bit of both.
as I do recall, I kind of heard that younger generations are no longer interested in what's modern anymore.
Well, I mean, look what's being played in movies. I mean, Guardians movies is a great example. Amazing soundtrack, but what's the songs being played? It's all stuff from 30 plus years ago.
Yeah.
Mhm.
My cousins who I'm pretty close with, they like some of the modern stuff, but they're generally listening to stuff I listen to. Like they're listening to Green Day, they're listening to Blink, they're listening to David Bowie. Like every time I go to a concert, there's probably 50-50 that it's people that are slightly older than me, people that are way younger than me.
Yeah, it's the same when I've seen Metallica. There's definitely people that they say, oh yeah, I saw Cliff Burton play. I was there in the 80s. And now that I'm 36, I'm finding there's still 14-year-olds and kids showing up at these shows.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of these older acts, they're still selling really big. And a lot of acts that disbanded for a while and have reunited, they've been selling big since they've been reunited. I actually have a big list of reunions that have happened within the past 5 years. A big personal one for me was Blink-182 when Tom DeLonge came back after proving that UFOs were real. That's a real thing. That was a big one. 2019, Rage Against the Machine, they reunited for a few years. Pantera reunited last year with the last two remaining members, and now this one was a big one for the emo kids. My Chemical Romance, they reunited in 2019, and they're still like selling pretty big. They've essentially became another Green Day, and where it's just a big band that gateway people are getting into. Coachella this year, two really big ska bands, No Doubt and Sublime, they both reunited. Sublime, they of course their singer's been dead for years, but it actually was his son that sang in his place. As of recording this, this was just announced within last week. Oasis, after years of hating each other, the Gallagher brothers finally got back together, and that whole reunion tour is already sold out. So there's definitely a huge interest from kids that are younger than me for these older bands.
Well, and then the music, the trends with music, they have changed. We remember in the 80s and 90s, at least I do, when MTV was actually showing music videos, that's when visual storytelling and song, that's how you sold your album. That's how you sold your concerts.
Yep.
Starting in the 2000s, you had songs being discovered in video games like Guitar Hero.
Tony Hawk.
I mean, that's how a lot of people discovered a lot of punk bands and a lot of metal bands was through Guitar Hero.
That was me.
Yeah, and then nowadays it's movies and TV shows and whatever is popular on social media.
Yep.
So who really knows what is the trend going to be when we get to the 2030s? Is it going to be a good trend? Is it going to be a bad trend? Will it lead to a resurgence in better music? Who really knows?
Yeah. I guess as far as like modern punk goes, I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, but there's always just been great punk I've found thanks to my drummer. Bands like No Pressure and Youth Fountain and Brigades and Menzingers, those are, if you're wanting to get into some more modern punk, those are some great ones to check out. Even like some of the newer bands from like veteran acts, like I think the final Sum 41 album and the latest album from the Suicide Machines called Revolution Spring, I think those are great. Good music is still out there.
All right. So with that said, the diner is closed. Stay tuned for the next time DJ and I talk music, and then stay tuned for the next time I record a Coyote rant or record another podcast episode. With my schedule on the road, it's always tough to find when I'm going to do it next, but I'm releasing content as often as I can. I'm Desert Coyote 22. Thanks for listening.